So when you do an output from Slurm, the output file from the batch script will default look like slurm minus jobid.out. And for now, I will just leave it at that, but it's possible to have slurm send it to errors to one file and output to another file, and it's also possible to have your own script. The job you run in it, of course, do output itself. But as default, everything goes to the slurm minus jobid.out. And you can look at that with, for instance, Nano. And remember, on Dardel, you need to load a module for Nano. I believe Nano is immediately available on all the other systems. Okay, let's continue to the next part, which is interactive work on the compute nodes. And here we will talk about what an interactive session is and when you might need it and how to work with it. And I'm not going to put much emphasis on the interactive and non-interactive friendly Python scripts because it's mainly a problem for HPC2N, which I think still has problems with the lost file system right now. So imagine you are developing a Python script in a line-by-line fashion. And if you're doing it as a batch job, then you make one line, you send it in, see if it runs, and then get an output back. That takes time, not just to create the job script, but more to wait in line to get it to run. So if it's something that's short, you can do it on the login node. But doing it on the login node might not be short enough. Maybe it actually is fairly heavy. And in that case, you shouldn't do it there if it ends up being a large Python script. And then you could do it as batch. But as I said, then you each time have to sit and wait for it to run. So instead, you might want to do it interactively. And there are more than one way of doing it interactively. You can do it interactively from the command line, and we'll talk about that right now. And a little bit later, we will talk about how to do it as from the portals, from the on-demand systems. But right now, let's just look at it regularly, interactively from a command line. Again, let's repeat the project IDs and the area for the storage space. I'm logged into Dardel, and I'm in the directory of the course project in my own space on it, inside the exercises day 2 for PDC. As I mentioned, some users develop Python code line by line, and they might want to run it in very frequently to see if it works, and it might be calculation heavy. And let's see how you can do that without clogging the login node and without waiting for a long time. And there is, of course, Jupyter. Jupyter can be accessed on all the system more or less easily on HPC2N. You can either do it as a batch job through ThinLink or through the Open On Demand portal, which is easy. On UPPMAX, it should be easily available directly. Lunark, do it through the GFX launcher, Open On Demand. We'll talk about it in not very long. NSC, you can do it through ThinLink, or you can do it as an SSH tunnel, or remote desktop or similar. For PDC, it's easiest through the GFX launcher in ThinLink. And for C3SE, you can do it through the Open On Demand portal. So there are easy ways of doing it there. Other ways of doing it is with interactive, salloc, srun. And there you actually sit on a terminal window, so it's lightweight like that. And might be the easiest way to connect if you are sitting somewhere with low bandwidth, or if you simply don't need anything heavier. And there are several ways of doing it, and each of the centers actually do it slightly differently. So there is the interactive command, and it looks like this: interactive -a, the project ID and the time you use it. That is recommended on Tetralit and on Pelle. Then there is salloc, which is recommended on Dardel and also on Kepler-Kaiser. And then Alvis, the only thing that works there, except for the GFX launcher, or the Open On Demand portal, sorry, is SRun. But that works, so you can do it that way as well. So let's look at some examples. So on Tetralit, assume you are there, then you would simply say interactive -a, and you would give your project ID. And you do not have to give the time. If you don't, it will give you 30 minutes, but I would recommend to use it, because telling it to, you should tell it maybe 1-2 hours or something, because 30 minutes is too little. So what happens is that it simply starts an interactive job, and when it has started, it sits in queue for a little while. Then you will be on that node, and anything you do from there will be done on that node, so you're not disturbing the login node. You can run your Python script, whether heavy or not, as often as you want to.
Sorry, Birgitte, that I interrupt you. Can you enlarge a little bit the page? It's a little bit tiny.
Let's see.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it so large that it fills up. How is this now?
Yeah, this is perfect.
Great, good.
Thank you.
So we are on, as I said, on Tetralit. You have this command here. And you end up on the login, on the compute node, and you work there. On Dardel, you can use Open On Demand through the GFX launcher. We'll talk in a little while. But you can also simply use salloc -a, your project ID, how long, and then the partition. And those are all needed. So why don't we actually go ahead and try that, because I am right now on Dardel. So I'm going to copy this here and let it start. It shouldn't take very long. It actually tells me here that it grants the job allocation, and I get the node NID 001787 ready for a job. If I run it now, things there, then I will have to do srun in front of it. So if I say wanted to do host name, see if that works. Yes, then I should say srun host name to get this node here. If I just say host name, then I am still on the login node. Where am I? There. You can see on login. Let's do clear. So we get up a little further on the page. And then I say host name. I'm on the login node. If I say srun host name, then I can see I actually do have this compute node. However, on Dardel, I can also log in to the compute node that I have now allocated. I'm doing that with SSH, and this one I copied here. Give it a moment. And I'm now on the compute node directly, and I can run things there directly. Anything I run now will be running on the compute node, and I will not be bogging down the login node. So this is how you would do that on Dardel. And I only asked for 10 minutes, so after a little while, it will exit out of this. Yes, there's a question.
Yes, my question is if this interactive session solves the problem of creating many files and then getting a problem because one creates many files.
If you create many files, that's a problem for the file system, and that will be a problem for the file system even if you're not on the login node.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
But there is, I believe, a scratch on it. Let's see if there's no scratch on their nodes. If you had a system that has a scratch directory, then I guess you could run there. Then you would only be bothering that node, but you would have to copy it out before it ends because that would be local scratch. So I mean, each of these compute nodes will be connected to the central file system, and at many centers they also have a small local disk. And that local disk you usually access from the /scratch directory or /temp. Let's see if there's one that's that. There was a temp directory on it. And then you could work there. And what you do there wouldn't bother the central system. However, you would have to copy it to your own directory afterwards before this interactive job ends, because it's only on that node. It's not going to go to the central file system unless you move it directly. Yeah,
yeah, may I ask you if you know about the SNCTemp environment variable? So that one, try that one. So
yeah, SNCTemp, I believe that probably goes to that.
That goes actually to Clemning.
That should go
so that's the file system.
Yeah,
so
that is the file system.
Yeah, so it's not a node scratch, which is the case on other systems, I believe.
Yeah, but it's set up differently on Dardel, because Dardel's nodes don't have local space. And I think that is the difference. If you are on any other system, it has local space. And if you go to $snic_temp, that will always point to the local disk if you are on any of the other centers.
Yeah.
And there you can work. Just copy it to your home directory or your project storage before leaving the interactive node. Because, I mean, imagine you're sitting in another room working, which is what you're doing. And if you are leaving the files there, they are there and not outside. Okay, Alvis. Alvis strongly recommends that you are using their Open On Demand portal. We will in a little while. But it is possible to do something similar to this. You would use srun and then the account, minus account, you should call it here, and then your project ID. And since Alvis only uses GPUs, you would ask for GPU, then the time, and then you need to end with -PTI equals /bin/batch. So you are simply opening a shell that's running bash on a node. And that will give you a compute node on Alvis. It works. They don't recommend it, but it works. So you can do that. On Kebnekaise is a special case. You do like Dardel. You ask with salloc -a, the project ID, -t, and then how long. You don't need to give a petition. We're not generally using that on HPC2N. But here it is like as if you haven't SSH to the compute node. Kebnekaise doesn't allow that. So you are on the login node. You can run stuff on the compute node by saying srun and then the commands. They will then run on the compute node. And if you have a script that you are running, this will work. So you can rerun your Python script again and again this way. However, if it does any true interactivity, like if it's asking you for something, your script, if you have to interact with it in any way while you're running it, you cannot, because you are on the login node. So if you're there, either live with it and use a script, or use the portal, in the Open On Demand portal, in which case you will get true interactivity. Pelle uses interactive, like Tetra did. So again, give it the project ID and the time. You then end up on a compute node. It's true interactivity. You work on it as if you're on that node, because you are. Cosmos, you can use interactive, just like on Pelle. They don't recommend it. They recommend the GFX launcher, which is an open on-demand system. As you can see, you can run interactively on all the system from the command line, even though it's debatable if what's on Kebnekaise is interactivity, but it's partial interactivity at least. So if you want to end it, you can just do exit. And as you can see, I now got logged out. The connection got closed. I'm out of my interactive session. I'm back on the login. So if you want to check if you're in an interactive session, well, we just did here earlier, but I can restart. Possibly not. I will find it. I think I used SL. Let's just copy it again. I will just start it up again. That. And when you want to check if you're in an interactive session, you check with the host name. If you're on HPC2N, you say srun host name. If you're on PDC and hasn't SSH'd, you also say srun host name. If you are on any other system, you can just say host name. It will tell you the host name of the interactive session. If it's not the login node, you are in an interactive session. So here, srun. That it did not like. It didn't like that I didn't write SSH. So if you say host name, you see what you get back is indeed a compute node, because you know the login node on Dadel is called login1. Let's exit and say host name. You get login1. That is the name of it. Another hint is that you can actually also see here in your prompt, it showed the compute node. It now shows the login node. And yeah, on each of the systems, you can easily do the same thing and see the difference between the name of the login node or the name of the compute node. So, if you do srun host name while you are on the compute node, you will see how many cores you got. If you asked for more than one, let's try and do that. Because this default asks for one. Let me go ahead and say I want two, maybe. Then I SSH to one of them here. And then I say srun host name. And they are both on that one, so nothing else happens. But yeah, you see the same one. This will work on HPC2N. But in any case, you can, I guess, do SQ and minus me. And then you see that you have an interactive job. And it's called this. And it's running on this node. Both of them are on that, I guess. So S control, show job, and then the job ID. Here you can see that you have two nodes, two CPUs. Here it's listed. So let's go to this is mainly relevant for HPC2N. As I said, it's not a true interactivity. You don't get any response back from the compute node. So you couldn't do something like this where it asks you to give two numbers or whatever, but you can run a script with Python and the name of the script. So, and I believe that's all I wanted to say here. Let's look at the schedule.